that the commission will rescind all pending grant awards and decisions and restart the application process at a later time so as to allow for the reevaluation and possible reformulation of the grant award process.
All righty, second.
You've already decided that you will be doing that. He's saying for the possible reformulation.
Oh, I apologize. Yeah, it's not possible. It is reformulation.
Very well. Agreeable.
All right. Is there a second?
I'll second that, Commissioner Jarrow, for the record.
All right. Further discussion?
Just Will Geddes for the
Commissioner
record. I
Baker.
recommend it.
Okay, I think that was Commissioner Baker that was trying to have some
Correct.
discussion.
I just wanted to say that I'm going to support that motion, but I just wanted to go on record to send my deepest apologies to all the applicants that took the time to fill out those grant applications and participate through the process. I know this is something we have to do, and I just want to apologize in advance for putting you guys through that effort, and hope that you stay positive as we move forward and that you would reapply.
All right, do we have any other comments, discussion, suggestions?
Commissioner Jackson,
Sir?
John Griggs, I think what Commissioner Baker said was well said. I would add that we're private people handling public sector money, and we're learning as we go, and we're breaking a few eggs, but we're trying to do the best that we can, and we will get there, and we appreciate the public's patience.
All right, any other comments, discussion? I would just sort of reiterate, I am sorry that we've had to come to this. The things that have happened in the last couple of months have been unbelievable. The animosity towards each other, the animosity towards the commission by people was uncalled for. And I believe that, you know, this is a learning process, and none of us could have predicted the reaction of some of the members of the commission or even members of the public or other organizations. And with that, I'm going to call for the votes. All in favor of the motion, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Are there any nays? All right, the motion passes. Thank you. All right, we're going to move to it's done. Where am I? Yep. Okay, we're going to move to agenda item number 7. Mr. Cox has done some work on putting together some suggestions and possible regulations. Mr. Cox.
In light of discussions taking place today, I would move to table that until we can schedule a public meeting
This is a public meeting, Mr. Cox.
and formulate a committee.
We have a committee. All right, what I'll do then is there a second to Mr. Cox's motion?
John Griggs,
Thank you, Mr. Griggs.
second.
All right. Mr. Cox's motion is to table this agenda item until March 20th. Would that work, Mr. Cox?
Yes.
And then the new chair can populate or change the population or repopulate the committee and choose to decide to go ahead and form that committee. All right, I'm going to call for the vote. All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion passes. All righty. That's done. 13's done, 14's been tabled. All right, unless somebody can say I haven't, I think we've covered all the agenda items except for the minutes. All right, so let's start on the minutes here. Oh, yeah, that's the end. Yeah, that's an end thing. All righty. Does everybody who wanted copies of the minutes have copies of the minutes? Anybody not have copies of the minutes who wanted them? All right, let's start with the minutes from... Let's start with the minutes from January 31st. All right, anybody on the commission have issue with these minutes?
Yes.
Go ahead. What is it?
I'd like a moment to put them up. Give me one moment, please.
All right, is there anybody, while we're waiting for Mr. Lambert, anybody else got a particular concern with the minutes?
To begin with, the minutes for January 31st do not include the grants, do not include any of the scoring criteria, and do not include the content of the meeting. While this is the only meeting that I've been able to acquire the DVDs and the audio-video on, there were several discrepancies within that meeting that are very troubling. There needs to be a more further review. In general, all of the minutes were short of the accompanying documents. But when I did review the minutes of January 31st, I found several very troubling sections in the videotape, including some dialogue between Chairman Jackson and Mr. Cox that is cause for great alarm and concern. Flying under the radar is not the goal and objective of this particular group, or at least of me. If there's support for these minutes, I will ask that you consider the dialogue in the transcript that was taken out of that documentation. I acquired a copy of it, and it isn't reflected in the minutes, and it appears to be...
Have you got an accusation in there, Mr. Lambert?
No, there isn't an accusation. There's a copy of what was said while the record was running. And it's between you and Mr. Cox, and it discussed wanting to be reimbursed for mileage. It discussed, geez, you're a member of the Trails and Dunes, and it discussed flying under the radar, and it's not represented in the minutes.
Okay,
There are other
Mr.
issues.
All right, Mr. Lambert, if you've got an issue with these, or you have some kind of complaint, make it.
I just did. I said that they're not
Again,
accurate.
Mr. Lambert, let me finish. If you have a complaint or you feel that was wrongdoing by any one of the members of the commission, I suggest, instead of using innuendo and accusation, that you actually come out and tell us what you feel was done wrong.
Here, Mr. Jackson, why don't you read the dialogue between you and Mr. Cox into the record for the
I have
commission?
no idea who wrote this, when it was written, and it's not been brought into the record.
I would ask Mr. Lambert if that was part of the meeting or if it was not.
Well, one point of order, second.
There's a point of order that Will Getty's Attorney General's office, it's not clear where this discussion is going and whether it's straying from the agenda. I would point out that under NRS 241.035, that sets forth the requirements for minutes. It's not clear whether the commission now is straying into comments that were made off the record, but generally speaking, the minutes, the requirement for the content of the minutes is one that requires date, time, place of meeting, the names of the members who attended the body and who were present and those who were absent, the substance of all matters proposed, discussed, or decided, and at the request of any member, a record of each member's vote on any matter decided by vote, the substance of remarks made by any member of the general public who addresses the body if he or she requests that the minutes reflect his or her remarks, if he or she has prepared written remarks, a copy of his or her written remarks, if he or she submits a copy for inclusion, and any other information that any member of the body requests be included or reflected in the minutes. So I believe at the last meeting there was a discussion about whether or not a recording or a microphone picked up a conversation that was held in the audience. I'm just cautioning the commission to stay on track with respect to the minutes.
All right. So, Mr. Lambert, have you got anything specifically that's written in the minutes that you feel is incorrect?
I specifically don't see copies of the grants in the minutes, and they were part of the meeting.
Okay, so
Not
you...
been made publicly.
So let me ask you this. So a copy, you're objecting to the fact that the copies of the grants aren't brought in as...
Yes,
All right, no problem. Kathy, are the copies of the grants available on the website?
The copies of the grants are available on the website.
Okay.
when,
Does anybody have an objection to us including copies of the grants with the minutes after they're approved?
Just make a motion.
Okay, seeing nothing. All right,
Yeah, it's all
right.
part of the minute process. If you
Okay.
verify that it's part of the minute process.
well, this is part of the minute process. Mr. Elmore?
This is Commissioner Elmore. I'm move that we include complete copies of the applications as they're posted on our website to the January 31st meeting minutes.
And then would you propose, do you accept the meeting minutes?
I would also propose that I also move that I accept the January 31st minutes as proposed.
All right, is there a second?
Commissioner Giroux, I'll second that.
Thank you, Commissioner Giroux. Any further discussion?
yes,
Mr. Lambert?
when were the grants posted to the website? In a public location?
You
Because
mean the grant
posted-
applications?
When were the grant applications posted to the website in a public location? Because where they were posted originally was not public.
Again, we need to stay on track, but I
That is
will...
on track, sir.
1 second, sir. We need to stay on track, but I will allow Kathy to answer. When were the grant applications posted to the website? Do you
In a
know?
public location.
I have to say, I would have to look that up. I don't recall exactly when they were.
They weren't where I could find them today.
I'll have to look that up.
Wait, you couldn't find them today? Because I spoke to somebody a couple of days ago who looked them up. Who looked at your grant.
I glanced at them, I didn't see them today. They were available in a file that was not publicly available back when they were originally emailed out to the commission, and I kept asking that they be posted publicly. I will let this motion pass. I don't
Chief
care to
Vance.
argue this one.
All right, Kathy, would you do me a favor? Would you make sure that if those grant applications are not on the website, that they are available? Mr. Elmore?
I can adjust my motion to make it maybe a little bit more clear. Rather than reference as posted on the website, I can reference as posted on the agenda for the January 31st, was that Friday meeting? Which
Yes,
lists
sir.
under agenda item number 17, it lists the grants. So if that's a cleaner way of referencing the list of grants and including the grants, I'm happy to do that.
All right. Okay, I'm going to move to the motion. Would anybody like us to restate that motion? Mr. Elmore, would you restate your motion?
This is Commissioner Elmore, for the record, I move that we accept the January 31st minutes as proposed with the inclusion of copies of the grants as listed in their entirety on the January 31st agenda.
Okay. All right, and we have a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I'm going to move to the vote. All in favor of approving the minutes, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. So Kathy, you will make sure that the minutes are available on the website for anybody to get. If they can print them themselves or ask you for a copy, but next to them or attached to them in some way that the grants are available to, the grant applications. All right. Okay. I'm sorry, former grant, yeah. Okay. All right, moving to the minutes from February 1, 2014. a 10 o'clock meeting. Does anybody have any issue with the minutes?
This is Commissioner Baker.
Ma'am?
Commissioner Baker, and I have some additional clarifications I would like asked be put on the minutes for the February 1st meeting.
Okay, go ahead.
Specifically, I know was a challenge to succinctly identify the discussions we had with each one of the grants, but I think it's important to note in the record that for under Agenda Item 4, grant deliberations, items 3, 5, and 10, we clarified that the budget requests were for $60,000, $60,000, and $47,250. Yet with each of these grants, the budget was for $8.3 million, and that there was no clarification in the grants for what they would do specifically with the $60,000. So we were in a dilemma regarding how to award it, given that there wasn't a definitive budget for the specific grant amount requested. I would just like that memorialized in the minutes.
All right. Any further discussion?
If I may make a public comment?
I have further comment.
Go ahead, Mr. Lammett. You can make public comment at the end of the meeting. Mr. Lammett?
In response to Ms. Baker's comment, I understand your confusion and difficulty in dealing with the spreadsheet, but the $6 million was part of the match that was spelled out had the grant been thoroughly read in result of trail mapping provided. And it was spelled out what was used with the commission's money, although there were items well beyond the commission's funding provided in that grant from other funding sources, including internal. So I'm not sure your representation of the spreadsheet's correct, Sue, but I appreciate your concern. Also to be in the record.
All right. Anybody else have any questions or comments? All right. Is there a motion to include or exclude language in the February 1st minutes? Okay. Can I get a motion to approve that said minutes?
With those modifications.
Well, that's understandable. All right, I'm sorry. So I'll make a motion to, since I guess Ms. Baker's question was answered, unless Ms. Baker wants to make a motion to modify the minutes. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and make a motion. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I just think it's important for the entire public to know that everybody on the commission, with the exception of Mr. Lambert, didn't know what we were going to do with the $60,000, and $47,000 that he requested, and we couldn't fund it. And every other grant application that came before us had a specific detailed budget. I want $20,000. I'm going to spend $5,000 on this particular thing, $15,000 on this particular thing. Those three grant applications had no clear identification of what was going on, and so in the interest of all the public, we did not feel comfortable because we didn't have a clear budget, and that was a key component on why we had controversy with those grants. Totally separate from the ethics. If there was no ethics conflict with those three grants, they would have been denied because we couldn't have identified what they were going to do with the funds we gave them. And I think that's hugely important to memorialize with regard to those deliberations.
All right, Commissioner Baker, the only thing that we can have in the minutes is what was actually said or what was actually done. And again, though I respect your opinion that you felt that something wasn't done or something wasn't available, unless that was actually explicitly said, we can't put that in the minutes. So if there is something in the structure of the minutes, I'm sorry, go ahead, ma'am.
It was specifically said, and Commissioner Richardson asked Commissioner Lambert if he could please work on giving us a budget that it told us what he was going to do with that money. And Commissioner Lambert, I'm trying to remember, I think at one point he said, I follow the regulations. I don't have to give you that. And I think later the next day, he handed Commissioner Richardson a revised budget that was a couple $100,000, and Commissioner Richardson said, well, this still doesn't work. But it was definitely discussed in the meeting.
Right, but the conversation, Mr. Richardson, was outside of the meeting, or was it inside the meeting?
It was definitely during the deliberations on these grants
All right.
in the meeting.
What I would ask
It'll
you
be on the DVD.
Okay, what I would ask you to do then, we've got a couple of choices. We can table those minutes until you've had a chance to look at the DVD and introduce that language, and then we can take a second look at them. Or if the commission was willing, if you want to read what you believe the language was in, then we could add that at that time, but we'd need a vote of the commission to do that. So my suggestion would be that we table the, are you okay with that? My suggestion would be that we would table the February 1st minutes until you can make the adjustments based on the DVD, so you've got something to go back on as opposed to memory. And then we can relook at those minutes at the March 20th meeting. Would that be okay with you? Commissioner Baker? Commissioner Baker?
I have not accessed the website, so I don't know if the DVD is available so that I'm going to be able to do that.
The
I would like to
DVD will
ask-
be available, and we will make a copy of the DVD available to you.
That's fine. I am surprised no other commissioner remembers this discussion.
They
But
probably do,
I'd be more than
but-
happy to take
right.
that on.
Right, no, they probably do remember the conversation, but the reality is everybody's trying to do something word for word in a document that you're just depending on people's memories isn't really the most efficient way to go. Mr. Elmore had a question, sir.
This is Commissioner Elmer for the record. Commissioner Baker, I completely agree with you. I am not comfortable in reviewing the January 31st, or I guess this is February 1st minutes. I don't feel that they are fully reflective of the discussion that occurred during each individual grants, particularly the 3 Nevada Trail Stewards grants. So I would like some additional time. I am fully aware that this meeting did take place on February 1st, and we do have a specified time window to ratify these minutes, let's say. But in the interest of being accuracy, I personally feel that would be the most prudent deal, and I would like some time to review the video recordings as well.
Will Geddes with the Attorney General's Office. Just a point of clarification. I do want to point out that NRS 241-0352 requires minutes or audio recordings of public meetings to be public records and must be made available for inspection by the public within 30 days after the meeting is adjourned. It seems here that you're describing minutes that are beyond that time frame. It appears, though, that you're saying you have audio recordings that are available. My recommendation would be that whatever you're going to do with minutes, you do so as quickly as possible, and even at this point, there may be a technical problem.
The quickest possible path then would be to table this until the 20th. Kathy, will you please make sure that Commissioner Baker has a copy of the audio from February 1? And would you please work with her to correct or to restate the minutes at that point? So I'm entertaining a motion to table the February 1st minutes until March 20th meeting.
Gary Lambert, for the record, I motion we table the February 31st minutes until February 1st minutes until such time as we've had adequate time to review.
All right, do I have a second? Mr. McKay?
I'll second that.
All right. Any further discussion?
Yes.
Go ahead, Mr. Lambert.
Susan Baker, you've made a statement regarding the commission having some type of vote or poll placed that I'm not aware of, and I'm curious as to when that vote or poll was placed in regard to the Nevada Trail Stewards and me being the only one in opposition. And would you please point that out on the agenda items for me? Because I am rather frustrated that that is being a statement from a commissioner, but it wasn't a vote and it's not part of the record.
Mr. Lambert, for the record, one of your, and I believe this is what she's referring to, one of your three applications was denied.
But it wasn't the statement.
And it wasn't, it was denied and there was a vote on that. And I believe that's correct. I believe that's what Commissioner Baker is referring to. So let's move along. We're getting short on time.
I don't believe that you can cut me off from speaking. Indeed, I did not. You can try, and you try restating motions until you get the result you want, and it's been a problem to the public. I'm afraid I don't agree to that behavior from the chair or from anyone else in the public. I did not vote on that, so I would prefer that you said that there was an abstention and that the rest of you felt some way, because you shall not represent me one way or another that's incorrect. I just don't agree to being misrepresented.
Commissioner Lambert, I apologize. You are absolutely right. You abstained from voting on yours. I apologize. You are
Thank you
absolutely
very
correct.
much, because the record is incredibly important at this time of public distrust. Excuse me, sir. Thank you very much, Ms. Baker.
All right. Any further discussion? I'm going to move to the vote. All in favor of tabling the minutes from February 1st, please indicate by saying aye.
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 All opposed? Seeing none, the motion carries. The minutes from February 1st will be tabled.